They walked onto the stage as two shy teenagers. They left as one of Britain's most unforgettable musical duos. What seemed like a perfect harmony on Britain's Got Talent was only the beginning of a far more complex story. Behind the standing ovations, record deals, and emotional performances, something quietly shifted. What really happened between Jonathan and Charlotte after the spotlight dimmed? Was it loyalty or limits? Fame or fallout? The truth is far more layered than any headline ever suggested. Before the flashbulbs and the fame, Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli were simply two musically inclined teenagers at West Hatch High School in Chigwell, Essex. Both were passionate about singing, but they had never worked together. That changed because of one teacher, Jeanette Brown, their music instructor. She saw potential in both students and decided to pair them for a special occasion. That occasion was her own wedding. She asked Jonathan and Charlotte to perform The Prayer, a powerful duet that demands both technical skill and genuine emotional connection. Neither student had considered the other as a duet partner before that moment. But when they sang together, something remarkable happened. Jonathan's rich operatic tenor and Charlotte's smooth, theatrical soprano created a harmony that surprised everyone, including themselves. Their voices contrasted with and complemented each other in a way that felt almost magical. Years later, Jeanette Brown reflected on that day and said the pairing had felt immediately right to her. It wasn't an audition or a talent scout, just a teacher's heartfelt choice for her wedding ceremony. But it changed everything. After that performance, Jonathan and Charlotte began to take their musical chemistry more seriously. With encouragement from teachers and their vocal coach Jenny Ewington, they trained together and became a duo. That partnership, built on trust and mutual respect, laid the groundwork for everything that followed. When Jonathan and Charlotte stepped onto the Britain's Got Talent stage in 2012, their performance of The Prayer left the audience breathless. But behind the awe and applause came one of the most controversial moments in the show's history. Simon Cowell, known for his brutal honesty, suggested that Jonathan should consider ditching Charlotte and pursuing a solo career. He expressed concern that Charlotte's voice might hold Jonathan back, given his operatic strength and undeniable star power. The suggestion shocked viewers, not only for its harshness, but for how publicly it dismissed Charlotte's role in what was clearly a well-balanced duet. Despite being just 17 years old, Jonathan didn't hesitate in his response. He firmly rejected Cowell's advice on national television, stating plainly that he would not abandon Charlotte. His unwavering loyalty became an instant talking point and won him widespread admiration. Rather than splitting, the pair advanced together, proving week after week that their partnership was not just emotionally resilient but artistically sound. Cowell later admitted he had been wrong. He said Charlotte blended with Jonathan's vocals in a way he had least expected. Jonathan, speaking in later interviews, added some important context. He said that the Simon Cowell seen on television was a rather provocative version of the real man. Behind the scenes, Cowell was far more supportive and caring, even described by Jonathan as a bit of a sweetheart off camera. There were also assumptions about the teenagers' personal chemistry. Rumors of a possible romance between the two began to circulate. Jonathan later described those rumors as creepy, adding that the idea gave him a barfy feeling. To him, Charlotte was more like a sister. Their relationship had always been platonic, professional, and built on genuine friendship. Jonathan and Charlotte entered Britain's Got Talent Season 6 as relatively unknown teenagers. Jonathan was 17, Charlotte was just 16, but their first performance quickly shifted the public's perception. Judge Alicia Dixon called their audition world-class. David Walliams praised a unique fusion of Jonathan's operatic depth and Charlotte's pop-influenced clarity. Their debut was not just musically impressive. It was emotionally compelling, and it set the tone for one of the most memorable journeys in BGD history. In the semifinals, they performed Caruso, a dramatic and vocally challenging song by Lucio Dalla. The performance was met with widespread acclaim. Amanda Holden called it amazing. Simon Cowell, previously skeptical, admitted that the two had made the best decision by remaining a duo. His change of heart highlighted just how far Jonathan and Charlotte had come. They won the public vote that night, earning a direct ticket to the finals. In the grand finale, They returned to the song that started it all, the prayer. Their chemistry was more polished, their voices confident, and their bond more visible than ever. David Walliams called the final performance sensational. Simon Cowell, once so doubtful, could only say unbelievable. Although they were ultimately beaten by Ashley and her dog Pudsey, many onlookers felt that Jonathan and Charlotte had truly won the hearts of the nation. Their journey was never just about a competition. It was a story of endurance, friendship, and artistic defiance. They came into the show facing questions about whether they belonged together, and they left as one of the most celebrated acts ever to grace the Britain's Got Talent stage. Following their sensational run on Britain's Got Talent, Jonathan and Charlotte signed a lucrative £1 million recording contract with Simon Cowell's label, Psycho Music. Despite finishing second in the competition, their vocal talent and emotional appeal had clearly resonated with both the public and industry executives. The man who had once told Jonathan to go solo was now backing them both as recording artists. Their debut album, Together, was released in September 2012 in the UK and a month later in the US. Produced by Graham Stack, who had previously worked with classical crossover group G4, the album featured a blend of new tracks and covers, including their signature rendition of The Prayer. It debuted at number 5 on the UK Albums Chart and received widespread praise for its polished production and the emotional maturity of the performances, especially given how young the artists were. Their second album, Perhaps Love, followed in October 2013. It was once again a blend of classical, pop, and musical theater, but featured more individual songs. Hints at the separate artistic paths each singer might one day follow. Perhaps Love also hit number 5 on the UK Albums Chart, cementing their status as genuine recording artists well beyond the realm of television novelty. What made their music uniquely powerful was its broad appeal. Jonathan's operatic strength harmonized beautifully with Charlotte's West End-style clarity, creating a crossover sound that was both accessible and technically impressive. Their albums brought classical-influenced music into the mainstream and examined it through modern, emotional perspectives. For two teenagers from Essex, it was a fulfillment of a dream neither had truly imagined possible just a year before. By 2014, after two highly successful albums, Jonathan and Charlotte found themselves at an unexpected crossroads. When the time came to discuss a third album with their label, Sony Classical, they quickly discovered that their visions for the future no longer aligned. Charlotte later revealed in an interview with The Evening Standard what happened in that meeting. They sat together going through their repertoire, tried to agree on songs. By the end of the meeting, they realized they couldn't agree on anything. It was a sobering moment, but it didn't come from personal tension. It came from a natural progression in their individual musical identities. Jonathan had always gravitated toward classical opera and wanted to stay firmly within that genre. Charlotte, on the other hand, found herself increasingly drawn to musical theater and more contemporary vocal styles. When Sony suggested they each pursue solo albums instead, it was both a practical solution and a turning point. Charlotte admitted the idea initially felt like a spanner in the works, but quickly came to see it as the only viable option for both of them to fully explore their separate passions. Both artists took a month to think it over before making the split official. It was emotional, Charlotte said. It's not like just because we don't make music together, we'll never see each other again. But it is sad because we've been through such a massive journey together and have always had one another to rely on. Charlotte also described going solo as scarier than sad, a new beginning in which the person she had shared her entire professional life would no longer be beside her. Yet both she and Jonathan acknowledged, with maturity and mutual respect, that it was the right move. They wanted to do different things. Their parting was not rejection, it was growth. For Charlotte, the next chapter meant turning fully toward musical theater. Having studied at the arts educational schools in London before Britain's Got Talent, she was well prepared for the transition. She made waves with appearances in Carousel and Concert at the Royal Festival Hall. She gained wider attention as a member of the original UK Cast of Heathers a musical in the West End, where she played Martha Dunstock, demonstrating not just vocal range but real dramatic depth. Her stage career continued to grow with roles, including Florinda in Into the Woods at the Theatre Royal Bath, and work with the Royal Shakespeare Company. Jonathan, meanwhile, stayed firmly rooted in the classical crossover space. His debut solo album, Tenore, was released in 2014 under Sony Classical and quickly topped Classical Artist Albums chart in the UK. In 2016, he followed up with Believe, an album that blended Italian arias with powerful orchestral arrangements, further cementing his status as one of Britain's most promising classical performers. He expanded his reach internationally, touring in Canada and the U.S., and collaborated with legendary songwriter Diane Warren on By Request. The Diane Warren Songbook, Volume 1. Their individual trajectories reflected who they had always been. Charlotte's path emphasized storytelling, immediacy, and human connection. Jonathan's leaned into grandeur, vocal power, and the timeless tradition of classical music. Both were exactly where they needed to be. In 2022, Charlotte took a meaningful step in publicly embracing her identity by coming out as bisexual. She made the announcement on Instagram during Pride Month, posting a striking image of herself wrapped in a pride flag. The post was met with an outpouring of support from fans and peers. For Charlotte, who first rose to fame as a teenager, sharing this part of herself was both a personal milestone and a statement of solidarity with the LGBTQ+ community in the arts. Beyond her personal identity, Charlotte has also used her platform to speak openly about mental health, particularly the psychological pressures that performers face. Her advocacy has helped her forge a loyal and engaged fan base well beyond her BGT days. Through her humor, candor, and authenticity on Instagram and TikTok, she has grown into a thoughtful and accessible public figure, one who connects with a new generation of musical theater enthusiasts. Jonathan, once introduced to the world as a shy, opera-singing teenager, has undergone a profound personal transformation. One of the most visible aspects of his evolution has been his remarkable weight loss. Over 5 stone, more than 70 pounds, through gradual lifestyle changes and a deeper commitment to his well-being. He was clear that the motivation was never industry pressure. It came from a desire to feel healthier, stronger, and more in control of his body and mind. Jonathan has been openly candid about the emotional journey behind the physical one. He admitted to going through periods of low discipline and feeling in a terrible state. His turning point came when he decided to stop letting life happen to him and start actively taking charge of it. For a long time, I was just experiencing life, letting life live me, he said. Taking control of your own life, grabbing the world with your hands, feels amazing. That message resonated deeply with fans who had followed his journey since his teenage years. He credited those fans as a real source of support throughout his transformation. Today, Jonathan is an artist living with purpose and intention, celebrated not only for his soaring vocals, but for the quiet victories behind the scenes. More than a decade after their unforgettable debut, Jonathan and Charlotte continue to captivate audiences individually. Charlotte recently stirred nostalgia on TikTok with a humorous anecdote about Cowell's initial skepticism, quipping that despite one seemingly hating her, he later bought her Kurt Geiger shoes for Christmas. The clip went viral and showcased her enduring charm. Jonathan continues to engage his fan base through heartfelt social media posts and live performances, sharing genuine gratitude and enthusiasm for the road ahead. As for a reunion, nothing official has been announced, but both artists have kept the door open. Their history and mutual respect suggest a joint performance is entirely possible, and if it ever happens, it will be welcomed with open arms. For now, both Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli continue to shine, separately, brilliantly, and on their own terms. Their individual achievements speak to the talent and dedication they have always carried, and the memory of 2 teenagers who found their voices together, refused to be torn apart, and then grew into who they were always meant to be. That memory lives on as powerful as ever,